Ruchim Abayim, welcome for the Shabbat HaGadol Drasha. Unfortunately, we have to be doing this from our house. We can't be doing it somewhere else. This is the knas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put on top of us. And we wanted to speak about a couple inyanim that are connected to Pesach. And of course, the first 20 minutes we'll speak a little bit in Halacha, but after that we wanted to speak what we can learn of this connection between Pesach and of course the situation that we're going through. I know there's been many videos that are going around about the ideas of what Hashem is trying to send us, but I think I want to speak to the etzem zach, to the thing itself, to be able to understand why Hashem is doing this to us and to see how it's so intricately connected to Pesach. That's what Hashem. We'll start with an idea, which is an important idea, with a little bit of a tour of Hilchot Pesach, meaning we're going to focus on all the chumrot, specifically the stringencies that one does on Pesach, all the chumrot that a person does on Pesach, that we go through in this interesting holiday. It's called Zman Cherutenu, but more appropriately probably should be called Zman Chumrutenu. It's a Zman with a lot of chumrat, obviously, and we know that it's something that we've been incredibly careful to keep to. Ad Kedei Kach, the Rosh brings down, and the Shulchan Aruch actually brings it, in Siman, Tov Mem Bet Sivov, the fact that the minhag was to be megarer akirot, to go ahead and scrape the walls. Ad Kedei Kach, they would scrape the walls, michumr de Pesach, because there's an idea called chumr de Pesach. That's what they would do in order to make sure that it would stay, that things would stay clean. Sheyesh chametz bechorim. The Mishabur brings down in Chavchet there's a makor for Yerushalmi, meaning it's not only 800 years ago, it's 2,000 years ago from the time of the Yerushalmi, that they would do this extra thing of what we do, painting the walls. Here we are painting houses in this, and it even comes from the Rosh, it comes from the Yerushalmi. There seems to be some type of makor, some type of makor for such a thing in Halacha. Okay? Bnei Yisrael Kedoshim v'nogu bo Yisr. Because Bnei Yisrael are Kedoshim, that's why they go ahead and they do sometimes an extra chumrah, they do an extra addition, things that not necessarily are mi'ikar din. And from here we want to bring out, like I said, a number of bullet points, a little bit of a trip through Hilchot Pesach to be able to see a number of places where we find this idea of chumrah de Pesach. We could just start from chametz itself. Chametz is something that's mutar all year round. The only thing that we find in the whole entire Torah is mutar all the time, and suddenly it becomes a chefza of isser. Suddenly it's not permitted to eat anymore. You're not permitted to eat from it. Why not? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that sometimes I want things to be a little bit different. On Pesach we do things different. Sometimes things which would normally be okay, on these days we try to take a little bit of an extra step. Bal Yiro, Bal Yamatza, something only found on Pesach. The idea of not only an issur of eating or having a na'ah of enjoyment, but also not actually seeing, or having it in your house, Ad Kedei Kach, that we all know. Baruch Hashem, we're so makpid to make sure that we do a full cleaning in the house, and nikayin mavrik, to make it entirely clean. Something that we don't do the whole entire year, Baruch Hashem. But we go ahead and we do it in order to make sure that it stays as clean as possible. Because of this reason of Bal Yirah, Bal Yamatza, that afilu b'mashu, even a little bit, we try not to make sure. Now, mi'ikar din only a kazait is asur, but even a ktzat, we're worried that even if you have less than a kazait, even if you have a little bit, afilu b'mashu shema, you might find something nice, and you might come to eat it. So that's why people are meticulous to clean everything. It doesn't mean you have to throw the Lego in the washing machine, ad kedei kach. You can go ahead and just check it over and do a 1-2 to make sure that it's okay. But we see this idea of trying to be makpid. The Genish was makpid about cleaning sfarim. Minig is, especially by Bnei Sfarad, but also by most Ashkenazim, Rosh Zalman, in addition to Rav Avadia, Rav Abishol, they say that you do not require to check all the sfarims individually. Just those that come to the table, it's good. It's good to be meticulous, to be able to try to check. We all know that even though that we kasher all our vessels, we go ahead and we kasher everything, we still cover it all up. I one time saw a picture of someone's car completely covered with silver foil all over it, and he said, "Oh, the car is ready for Pesach. That idea of doing a little bit of extra, even after we go ahead and kasher it, even though we kasher, we go ahead and do a double cover to make sure that nothing gets through, is because of Chumrah de Pesach. We try to be extra meticulous, extra careful to make sure that everything stays mavrik, to stay as clean as possible. Another couple ideas we find the whole entire Torah all the time when it comes to mixtures. We say in a taruvit of a mixture that it's batel beshishim. When you have 60 times, it becomes batel. That's what requires 60. When you're dealing with a mixture of milk falling into meat, once you have 60, it's 100% mutter. Even if a little bit of milk falls into your cholent, you can go ahead and enjoy on Shabbat to eat it. Why? Because it's batal b'shishim. As opposed to on Pesach, we say afilu b'mashu lo batal. If something falls in, even a teeny bit of chametz, it falls in on Pesach, we say that it's asur. That's why you'll find that some people are machmir. When I was a bacher, I remember going to someone's house and he had a big garbage can on top of his table in the middle of the kitchen. I had no idea what was going on. And I saw inside of it, it was full of water. And the reason why is because they were being machmir to prepare all the water that they plan on using in the kitchen or drinking water before Pesach. Because in the Kinneret, you remember the Kinneret? The Baruch Hashem, it's full on its dudotav, it's overflowing, but even so, there's still chametz inside of it. There's bread all over the place inside of there. So chametz afilu b'mashu lo yibatal. So ad kedei kach, there's room to say that maybe the Kinneret is also not batal, and the water that you're getting is from a mixture of water with bread, and that's why some people prepare the water beforehand in order that it will be batal beforehand. L'maaseh, it's a chumrah. Mi'ikar din, one is not chayiv, especially the Sephardi poskim, or Baba Shol, or Bavadja, and others are mekel. Rav Shlomo Zalman also says, bevadai it's batel. So much is definitely batel. Most of the poskim are definitely lenient, and therefore, like I said, this is another one of these chumras that people are taking on Pesach because of what we call Chumr de Pesach, the extra curricular idea that we find on Pesach of just trying to be a little bit more meticulous than we are the rest of the year. In general, we have a klal called Eino ben Yomo, something that's noten tam levgang, meaning it passed 24 hours. If I cook inside of such a pot, the food does not become asur. If I cooked in a meaty pot, something milky, it does not become asur. The food does not become asur. In as much as 24 hours have passed. Since 24 hours have passed, it does not become asur. How can that be? Because we say that the absorptions don't taste good. On Pesach, according to the Ramah, we're machmir. In 7 Tov Mem Zayin, the Ramah brings down in Sif Yud that even Nois and Tam Lev Gam were machmir, meaning Bnei Eshkenaz, Bnei Sfarad are mekel, like that to Maran, like that to Shulchan Aruch, that says that we're mekel and Nois and Tam Lev Gam. But L'maaseh, here we have another place where we find this interesting idea of being more machmir on Pesach more than the rest of the year. Even though usually we say stam kelim einam bnei yomam, we usually say a kli in general is eino ben yomam, meaning it is not, it's already past 24 hours and we assume it's already noten tam lev kam. But on Pesach, the Mishabur brings in Sivan Taf Mem Zayin over there in Sif Katan Nun Chet, also this idea that we're more machmir, Okay, another place where we find the Chomer de Pesach. Let's just give a few more examples till we move on to the next section. We know that the minig is to be machmir, not to sell chametz gomer. We try in general our best not to sell proper chametz because there's certain questions that go into the selling. We spoke about it a few Shabbat HaGadol ago, about 5 years ago. There's a number of questions that go into the mechirat chametz of how the kinyanim are made and is it real, etc. We definitely hold it's true. The Vilna Gaon and Ma'aser Rav, the Chaya Adam and others are machmir, to be machmir in the mechira, in the sale. And therefore, even though it is brought down in Taf Mem Chet, the idea of the mechirat chametz, still we try not to sell chametz gadol. Still we try not to sell chametz gamor. Complete chametz we try our best not to sell. Okay, L'maaseh, many people have asked this year, can we keep our chametz around? So the answer is, it depends on where you're holding. In other words, if you're worried about the situation that's going to be afterwards, that there's not going to be chametz around, so go ahead and hold on to it. You can sell it. Al pi halacha, it's mutter. Like I said, it's a chumrah to sell your not to sell your chametz gamur. Mi'ikar din, the poskim all say that we paskin that it's permitted and the mechira works, and we hold that it's okay. So therefore, if a person wants to go ahead and sell the chametz, if he wants to hold on to his chametz and not sell it, it's permitted in this situation. If a person wants to be machmir, to take it on, Bezrat Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to find us a geula and a refuah b'kar v'yameinu b'yameinu amen. Okay, there's an interesting chumrah that people take on. That's like I'd say an old European chumrah. We don't see it as much these days, but it has makorat. Rav Shlomo Zalman brings it, and other poskim bring such a thing. When something falls on the floor, not to go ahead and eat it. Believe it or not, there's such a chumrah like that sometimes when something falls on the floor, some people are knowing not to eat it. Why? Because of chashta chametz. Who kashed the floors? You didn't kash the floors, did you? So it could be there was chametz on the floors. Now, if it was cold, of course we know mi'ikar din it's mutter. And we know that it comes from a place of a chumrah. If it was hot, so maybe there's room to say something hot filled there before that was chametz. And even though past 24 hours, we already mentioned that that's still a problem. So that's why some people keep to this chumrah. And you'll say, oh, another chumrah. But don't forget, right now, these days, if something drops on the floor, are you going to eat it? Or are you going to be worried about corona? The chances of corona being hit onto your food is probably much more far-fetched than a kitchen full of chametz that has things on the floor. Now, again, I'm not saying to keep this chumrah. You don't have to. I'm just pointing out that we see another place that the idea of chumrah de chametz comes into place. A couple other places where we find certain chumrot that we add on Pesach is with eggs. Eggs, if anybody has any in the house, it seems to be that there's a big shortage and nobody seems to be having them at this stage. So whatever you can get your hands on, you might as well get advantage of. But l'maaseh, many people try to buy their eggs before Pesach. Maybe that's why the stores are empty. And one of the reasons is because they say sometimes there's some type of kemach surrounding it or on top of it, or more specifically the ink on the chotemet, on the signet, on the date, on top of the eggs. So over there is a sif in Shulchan Aruch, Taf Mem Bet Sif Yud, where he brings that ink you're allowed to write with, even though it has chametz. And he says, we're not worried that maybe you're going to put it to your mouth. But we see that even though you put it to your mouth, it might be a problem if you might put it on your mouth. Now, it is not tam lefgam. It is something that is pagum. It doesn't taste necessarily good, and therefore, mi'ikar din, it's really permitted. It's really okay. And of course, we know that the chances of that ink getting into your food is close to nil. But like we said, michumer de Pesach, some people try to be makbid to get only ones with a proper hechsher, ones without, and the ones with the hechsherim don't have on them this signet. They don't have it on top of it. Okay? Chalav, what about milk? The Mishabur brings in the end of Siman Taf Mem Chet also the idea of buying milk even before Pesach. The idea of why? Because we know that sometimes they feed the cows chametz, and you're indirectly getting enough from the chametz. You're indirectly getting enough from chametz, and therefore maybe it's a problem because you're drinking the milk that the cow ate in order to have, and maybe that's called a problem. It reminds me of the story of a person who had a cow and was milking his cow all the time. And he ended up someone asked him how much he says 50 liters a day he's able to produce. And what do you feed the cow? He says, I feed him 50 liters of milk. He says, so how do you make any money if you're feeding him 50 liters and you're only getting 50 liters and you're getting 50 liters? So he answered, no, you understand, I feed the cow 50 liters of chalav akum and I milk it 50 liters of chalav Yisrael. So it seems to be that there's some connection between what you eat it and what you milk it. Maybe there's no connection, but al kapanim it's a chumrah like everything else. What about ofot? We know with meat, meikar din, it doesn't require special hechsher to be kosher for Pesach. As long as it's kosher, it's okay. But you should know in the chickens, there's a chela called the crop, the zefek, which is in its neck, and it contains sometimes chametz inside of there, of all the chametz that the chickens might eat. So therefore, in the hechsherim, they usually remove this part and don't sell it during the Pesach period in order to avoid this problem of any type of zef. Is it pogum? Oh boy, is it pogum? It definitely doesn't taste good. But because of chumrah de Pesach, we go ahead and we take on this chumrah. Usually, when you put two pots together, it does not transfer bliot. That's why your chatzuvot, your stovetop, the grates on top of the stovetop, when you put a pot on top of it, it's permitted to put a meaty pot on top of a milchik one, or the other way around. It's good to have one specified for milks and three for the meats. It's a better thing to do, but it's not me'akev. According to the letter of the law, it's okay because it doesn't transfer taste from one to the other unless there's some retivut in between them, some type of wetness in between them. On Pesach, it's brought down already in the Ramon, Siman Tov Nun Aleph Ziv Daled, the Mishabur Lamed Daled over there speaks it out. That we're more machmir. We try to kasher our grates. If you're not able to kasher it these days, especially, many people have asked that I can't kasher the grates these days. How am I I can't do libun on them. There's no real place to do libun. You can cover it up. It's fine. You could turn on the fires on the highest, kasher them, and then cover it up, and that's fine. But it's also mitzad chumr de Pesach, because we try to make sure that even a mashu of chametz is out of our house. We want to make sure that nothing gets connected in any type of way. A couple other examples, and with that we'll finish here. Dried fruits in Tav Samech Zayin. The Ramah brings down in Sif Chet also dry fruit. Sometimes in the process of drying, they might add some type of kemach. So people should be careful to get ones with a good hechsher for Pesach. All the nuts and these things, especially ones with a hard shell, you don't have to have a proper special Pesach hechsher because those are fine. They're usually clean. Besides the fact you're not eating the shell on top of it, but with the dried fruits, it's good to be machmir. The Aruch HaShulchan over there in Sif Tazayin, he brings down such an idea. A very usual known chumrah that we take on Pesach is all these lists and lists and lists, different shampoos and soaps, cosmetics, refuat, different types of medicines, etc. Mi'ikaradin, we all know that something that is not roy lachilat keleb during the whole year, if something is not roy for a person to eat, so then it is not considered asur. That's why some people would say gelatin is permitted because it's not roy for a person to eat. There's reasons why we're machmir, because it's sweetened up. But on Pesach, there's an extra chumrah that's something that's not that it's not enough that it's not roy, it's not befitting for a person to eat. Has to be that even a kelev will not eat it, and then it's permitted on Pesach. If the chametz becomes not befitting for even an animal to eat, so then it's not asur. So based on that, mi'ikar din, as many of the poskim write, soaps and shampoos are really okay. Okay, different types of cosmetics are really okay. All these things are basically okay. Why are the lists? B'chumer de Pesach, we try to make sure not to have any type of chametz, especially the ones we're going to use. You don't really have to sell all your soaps and shampoos, they're okay. But if you're going to use it, so there's an idea of sicha kishtiya, I'm putting it on my body, I'm getting some enjoyment from it, even though it's not right for eating. So therefore, we try to go out of our way not to do it. It's a chumrah, you don't have to keep it, but what we are machmir about, what the minig is to be machmir, is anything that goes in your mouth, such as toothpaste. Very kedai to make sure that you get something that's roy for Pesach, something that's kosher. Lipstick, that's also something that goes in someone's mouth. So therefore, should be careful to make sure that it doesn't. It has some type of kosher chapstick, or refuat, certain types of medicines. Even though it could be most of the medicines that we have, if it's sweet tasting, that's obvious that you have to be careful about. But even if it's not sweet tasting, it's just a pill, which is mutar. Even if it has a little bit of glucose on top of it, it's mutar mi'ikar din, according to the letter of the law. But b'chumer de Pesach, we try not to put things in our body which contain chametz, and therefore we say to try to be machmir. Again, mitzad chumra de Pesach. Also different perfumes. People ask sometimes, the cheaper perfumes, maybe the ones you can get around in this country, those are usually okay. Those are usually beseder gamor, because the alcohol is not real alcohol, and no normal, sane person or animal would eat it. Mashenkin, ones that contain denatured alcohol, the more expensive ones are the ones that come from Chutz La'aretz a lot of times. Those could be problematic. Moshe has a tshuva in Kehillat Gimel, where he's actually makbid. He says a good Russian on a good day, he'll drink some of that alcohol. When he's thirsty, he'll go ahead and water it down, dilute it, and have it. So, in the end of the day, it's kedai to try to be machmer if one is able to when it comes to these types of refuat, and that's why we go out of our way. If a person can't find it, like I said, mi'ikar din, it's permitted. We'll end with one last case. Of course, there's matzah. We all know that matzah, we don't use normal flour. Now, flour, many people ask this, you're allowed to sell our flour. Don't use it in your food, but you're allowed to sell it. What they do over there is tempering the wheat, meaning that they go ahead and they might sprinkle a little bit of water. Usually it's not chametz, and even if it is, it's a very minimal amount. Selling chametz, we sell chametz, which is only a minimal amount, which is a taruv to chametz. And therefore it's permitted to go ahead and sell that type of chametz, because it's not called chametz gamur. But we would never use such a flour for the matzah, of course. Over there, we use matzah from matzah shmura, which comes from kemach that was watched from the beginning. It was even picked before it was fully ripened, in order to avoid a rainfall from being able to be machmetz in one way or the other. And then it's stored in the storehouses in a very careful, meticulous way to make sure that it gets no type of dampness. And obviously we know that's how the special kemach was made, the special flour is made in order to take care of our matzahs, which are watched in a very meticulous way. Michumer de Pesach, and also mi'ikar din, we try to be sure to make sure that everything is safe as can be. At nighttime, we use hand matzahs on the night of the Seder. Why do we use hand? Why not machine? Because we want lishma, an extra addition, which is something we try to be machmir on, to make sure that it's lishma. The matzahs, and like the matzah should be done lishma, meaning l'shem mitzvot matzah, which is done only with the hand matzahs. It's brought down in Siman Tav Samech. Siman Tav Samech, this idea, in order to be to be careful that we don't make any mistakes. Al Kopanim, we see from here the chumras and chumras that we have on Pesach, Baruch Hashem, Ashreim Yisrael Kadoshim Hem, they're so machmir, as the Ran brings down, but Bittul, the Ran explains in the beginning of Pesachim, Bittul Be'al Masagi, you should know it's unbelievable. According to the letter of the law, you only have to do a Bitul Chametz, just say, all the Chametz is afar, I don't care about it. And you don't have to do a whole check in your house, incredible, you don't have to do a whole check, but we do also B'dika. So the Gemara brings down the importance of doing a B'dika, the Ran in the beginning of Pesachim explains why. We're careful just in case to do a B'dikat Chametz, but everything that we're doing, all the cleaning, all the weeks, all the slavery that we're going through, Avadim Hayinu, during this time period of cleaning up, it comes not just remembering our slavery in Egypt, but also in order to be able to be Machmer and Pesach. It's unbelievable. They have a Maisa with the Rav from Brisk, or it's a Maral Diskin of the Beit HaLevi, there are the Nusach in two different places, who's incredibly Machmer on Pesach. Everybody knows he had Chumras on Pesach. And in other places also, brisker chumras, and still his wife told him to get out of the kitchen. His wife told him, I don't want you in the kitchen. If it was up to you, then chametz would be in this kitchen right now. Baruch Hashem, our wives are very machmer to the nth degree in order to make sure that things are as clean as possible. And it comes from this place, it comes from a good makor. Now here we move to the second step, and that is, why is there such an inyan of chumrat, and where does it come from? What's the place for adding all these chumrat on Pesach, and is there really so much meaning to doing it? Many people ask, we find, of course, we know here and there might be a machloket in the Gemara, a disagreement. And sometimes we say the halacha is that it's mutar, but still, tavo alav bracha to be machmir, but it's still good. Why should I be machmir? There are those people that come and they ask, why should I be machmir? If the letter of the rabbi, just tell me if it's permitted. I just want to know if it's mutar. And there's some people who want to know if there's a chumrah, should I be machmir, should I not be machmir, whatever you say. Where's this place in Judaism? If there's a law, there's a law. If there's not, it's not. A Kodesh Baruch Hu could say yes, this, not this. Why do we have this discrepancy, this type of differences that we find, which is unusual, that sometimes being machmer and sometimes not, and especially here in Pesach? So here we move on to the next step. And this is the Hashkafa, which I said is very relevant for A, Pesach, and B, for our situation today. And this is based on the Hagdama to Tiferet Torah, a beautiful piece over there, which I wanted to bring out over here. And the idea is like this. This is from Rapinkus. Basically, in every relationship, there's two aspects to a relationship. Every relationship has two aspects to it. Okay? When a person looks into it. The first one is the tachlit, the purpose of the relationship. The zivug, the connection, what is it there for? What's the purpose? What's our matara? That's the purpose. Of course, if you look into a marriage, the purpose is, of course, hemshech hadorah, to build a family, to have children, to be able to continue the generations. Sha'al avicha v'yigedcha, zkenecha v'yom mulach. We try to continue our generations. That's what we're here for, and able to do. The mitzvah pru'arvu is a mitzvah de'oraita. Of course, that would be the tachlit, the purpose of a marriage. But is that the essence of a marriage? Is that what we're here for? Is that everything that it's about? If the essence of a marriage was that, it would be a pretty sad relationship. It would be a relationship made up of him telling you, listen, let's make a deal. You clean the house, take care of the kids. I'll make sure to bring in the money, and that's it. A nice, dry, cold relationship. In the Cheder Yichud, he'll open up a newspaper and he'll say, Bezrat Hashem, by the Brit Milah we'll celebrate. Right now I'm not interested. That's the tachlit. That's the tachlit of a relationship. The tachlit is for what the future is going to lead to. But the mahut, the essence of the nesuin, the mahut, the essence of the relationship has nothing to do with it. It's a kesher, it's a bond, it's a building a relationship that has to do with enjoying each other's times together, doing something a little bit extra, trying and going to build the relationship. That's the essence of the relationship, which eventually leads to the tachlit, which eventually leads to the purpose that comes at the end. It's interesting in the Ketuvah, the marriage contract, which everyone writes by the chuppah. If you look at the obligations, there's a number of obligations that are in there, but mainly, when it boils down to it, comes down to sher ksut ve'ona. Sher ksut ve'ona. You have the purposes of taking care of your wife, to feeding her, to giving her food and clothes, etc. You have to take care of her needs, and that's it. Doesn't say anywhere a word about having to spend time to talk, to be able to build a relationship, to be able to take her out, to buy her presents. Baruch Hashem, what a p'tur. If you think about it, if you read the Ketuvah, you get a p'tur here. You don't have to go ahead and do. Why isn't this not written in the relationship? Why is it written in all the dry stuff? Where's all the mushy-bushy stuff which we're familiar with? The answer is because that is Nesuin. The essence of marriage is the kesher. It's the relationship. It doesn't need to be written. When you're going into the idea that we call marriage, that is what it is. If you make it into an obligation, you lost its whole value. You took away its erech. It's not worth anything. The whole value of the relationship only comes through the fact that you have this type of kesher. After that kesher, so everything else falls by the wayside. Everything else is a byproduct of that. That's what it is. There's two things. There's the tachlit and there's the mahut, and the two should not be mixed up. There's the purpose and the essence of marriage, and they're both very important. And people, unfortunately, who don't have the good marriages seem to forget this point. And here we move to what's relevant for us. You open up a Mesilat Yesharim, Yesod Chasidut v'Shorish Havodah, the beginning when he discusses everything. What does he say? To know Adam lo nivra ela litaneg el Hashem. You're here to get enjoyment from Hashem. Lanot miziv shchinato. In our shiur on Motzei Shabbat, we spoke about Olam Haba. Gan Eden is ziv shchina. It's connecting to the shchina, the aura of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then he talks about the idea of going to Olam Haba. And Olam Hazeh, this world is only a prusdor, it's only a corridor to Olam Haba, and it's only temporary. That's it. That's the whole entire thing. That's what we're here for. So it says Mesilat Yesharim. That's it? No. The Mesilat Yesharim is telling us what the tachlit is. What's the purpose we're here? We're here finally to get at the end to the end of days, to be able to reach a Gan Eden, to reach a Mashiach, to be able to reach a Tchiyat HaMeitim, and to be in a very good place. Bezrat Hashem, it should come soon. Bezrat Hashem. Al Kol Panim, that's the tachlit, the mahut, the essence, that the Mesilat Yesharim didn't need to speak about and he didn't speak about. Because the essence of life, the essence of our purpose here is the relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the kesher that we have, b'niyat ahava, this meat of ahava that we have within him, that is the mahut of our work here. Where we get to afterwards, that's where we get to. But the essence is the chuppah. Right now, in this prusdor, this corridor that we're here for 120 years, if you're lucky, is the chuppah, which is the relationship that you have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what we're working on. To see Hashem, to speak to Him, to relate to Him. Not just to go through some ceremony of 3 times a tefillah. We're being thrown out of our shuls right now because, unfortunately, we have a little bit of an external relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. We just see it as a place of going in davened and going in undavened and coming out davened. Just going as finishing a finished product. No. The mahut of our avodah, of our working, is going and trying to add some type of relationship to speaking to Him. It's so interesting. David HaMelech had a magefa. There was a plague during the time of David HaMelech because he counted the people. And what was the way to get around it? Hashem was metaken mea brachot. If you look on the signs, people don't realize why. There's a few signs that says you should have kavanah during the 100 brachot. And they're saying that because of the magefa of David HaMelech. David HaMelech had a plague. And during that time, in the 100 brachot is the way to get around that plague. What's the kesher? What does the 100 brachot have to do with the plague? What's the relationship? The answer is pashut. The connection is because a bracha is a dibur. It's speaking to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. When you have a fight, when you have a spat, does it help to scream? Does it help to get angry, throw things, hit? No, that doesn't take care of the situation. We all know that only makes it worse. You got to sit down and talk. You got to be able to relate what the problem is, build the kesher, relate the situation, what we went through, why we went through it, and get back to where we were before. That's mea brachot. Talk to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch atah Hashem. You, I say the word you to Hashem. You can't say you to a Rav. And here you are saying you to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. How do you do such a thing? Because it's a conversation. Tefillah is a conversation. And here we are being put alone in our houses in order to remind us that yes, we're here to conversate with our Creator, to be able to discuss with Him what's wrong, why are we going through this, and realize that we're here for a reason. Not just 3 times a day, not just when I have to, and try to finish Mona Esrei and try to finish with a minyan, etc. A little bit more to that. But Al-Kapanim, that's the mahut of our relationship, the chiba, the dveikus, the love, the connection that we have with Hashem. V'asetchem al kanfei nesharim ve'avietchem alai. That's what it says in the pasuk. It says in the pasuk when we talk about Mitzrayim. Hashem says to us, "Atem ra'itam asher asiti leMitzrayim." You saw what I did to the Mitzrayim. And He says, I carried you on kanfei nesharim. I carried you on wings. There's no wings right now flying. Everybody's got to go by foot. But what can we do? And I brought you to me. And if you listen to what I say, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu speaks like my little bubale. He says, "Hayitim li zgula mikol amim, atam tiyu li mamlechet kohanim." You will be my precious child. You will be my zgula, my only nation, etc. And you will be a goy kadosh. You will be a holy nation. And Kadosh Baruch Hu speaks to us as a child because He loves us. And this is the time where we were born. Pesach is the time when we were born, and that's why there's a special chavivut during this time. We read, the Ashkenazim to read Shir Shirim during this time period. Sfaradim don't read it. Sfaradim read it every week because the relationship there is there every week. But Al Kopanim and Pesach especially, that's the essence of the Chag, where Shir Shirim is connected to, is read. We read Shir Shirim in the Haggadah, specifically in the Haggadah. It's at the end of the Haggadah. Or we read the Megillah. The Ashkenazim do. Why? Because what is the whole Shir Shirim? Shir Shirim, Biti, Achoti, Imi, calls us our daughter. He has a special chavivut for us, a special love for us, and he calls us as a specific krov mishpacha, or a relative, the people that you're around now 24/7, that you're not able to see anybody else except for your relatives. But that's it, because we're living Shir Shirim, we're living together right now with a certain closeness with only the relatives. Rabbi Kiva writes in Masechet Yadayim, in the Mishnah Masechet Yadayim, Perek Gimel Mishnah, hey, Rabbi Kiva says, She'ein kol ha'olam kulo kedai, keyom shedina bo Shir Shirim liYisrael. The whole world was only kedai for the day that Shir Shirim was given. Imagine, the whole world only for Shir Shirim. Kol ha'kduvim kodesh, v'Shir Shirim kodesh kedoshim. Kodesh kedoshim is the inner sanctuaries, the place where things are most intimate. That's the place where we have the most connection. You can't go there all the time. And that's where this intimate connection we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. Kol Bria here, the whole entire creation was only for Shir Shirim. How could it be? For one Megillah? But the answer is Pashut. It's not doesn't do with the Megillah, it has to do with this relationship. The mahut of creation, the process of creation, the whole reason why this world was created was for Bnei Yisrael to have this special relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To have this intimate ahava medabeket between us and Hashem. V'ayita li la'am, v'ayita li mamlechet kohanim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about us. When we went out of Mitzrayim, we didn't even have a Torah yet. We're still 50 days before the Torah. That's why it doesn't say you're going to be Talmid Chacham Tzadikim. It doesn't even say it. It says, V'ayita li la'am. You're mine. You're my baby. That's all I care about. That's what I care about. And here he is. Hashem says, I never do things. I try my best not to do nisim gluyim. Hashem only wants things to be natural. The Gemara in Shabbat Nun Hey brings a miracle that Hashem had to do for a certain person, and the Chachamim insulted the person that Hashem had to do a nes in order to help you out. Davar Genai, who the Gemara says. It was a Genai to do such a thing. Why? Hashem doesn't try to change nature, and here we have Mitzrayim as a one-time phenomenon. Plague after plague, if you think about it, it's unbelievable. I know we're so used to it. But this is our objective during the Haggadah, to try to be as descriptive as possible of what happened during those plagues. To try to get and read all the Midrashim and Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of books now, to try to realize the details of what happened during those plagues, to realize, unbelievable, Hashem went crazy. Kebiyochel, Hashem said, my bubble is in trouble. 86 years of oppression. They're screaming to Niv Nitzak El Hashem Elokeinu. We had a Sha'ava and an Akah, all these types of screams. Hashem says, no, I'm going to take care of you. Kriyat Yam, so He split seas for us. Things that doesn't happen every day, or never. That's in that 1 year period of time, the most compressed amount of miracles and incredible miracles that occurred. And Hashem took care of us on a very intimate basis. He kept us separate. He kept us separate all the time, even though we were sitting there in Mitzrayim. Why? Because Hashem is trying to point out to us this important idea, Biti, Achoti, Ima, I love you, I care about you. And that's why there's such an important mitzvah of Zechirat Yetzir Mitzrayim. We have a constant mitzvah of always remembering Yetzir Mitzrayim on a constant basis. Every mitzvah is Zechel Yetzir Mitzrayim. Everything we do is a Zechirat Yetzir Mitzrayim. The tefillin that we put on our heads, the mezuzah we put on our door, everything, Shema Yisrael, is always there to remind us of what? Just remembering that we went out of Mitzrayim, okay, an event that happened 3,300 years ago, Beseder, it's obviously a lot more than that. To remember the relationship. Yashkenim and Ashikut Pio, Kadosh Baruch Hu kisses us, He cares, and He's telling us, Chevre, I know you're in a tzara, I know you're in a mitzukah, I know things don't look easy, I know you don't understand why things are happening, but Tiskor Yetziat Mitzrayim, it was also there, and it comes from a place of love, of affection, of ahava. It's because I care about you, and I'm doing it for a reason. I'm here for you, and I want you to start thinking about it. Why is it coming? Where is it coming from? Every eitz tzara, every tochacha is a place of ahava. It comes from a place of relationship. We all know that to go and dance at someone's Wedding, anybody can do it. Any type of relative could be a far friend, a distant friend. You can go dance. But to cry at a funeral, you have to be very connected. You have to have some type of connected. You have to have some type of connection that comes from a connection. To go ahead and give someone a prize, anybody can do. But to give him a slap, only a father can do. It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of connection. And if we're going through a difficult time, it obviously comes from biti, achoti, and imi. It obviously comes from a certain relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't come for stam. Now, let me just point out that this has to do with what we started the shir about from the beginning. This has to do with the idea of chumrat de Pesach. Chumras. We asked, what does that have to do with chumras? And here, after this introduction, we can now, as we're coming to a conclusion of the shir, have a full understanding of what's behind the idea of a chumrah. This is based on the Birkat Peretz, the Stipler in Parshat Vayikra. He asks on the Korbanot, we have a Korban Nedava, we have Gemilut Chasadim, Tzedakah, we have a lot of mitzvot which we're not obligated to do. And he asks, why not? And he says very simple. He says, because if everything was an obligation, then that wouldn't be a relationship. A real relationship comes when I give something when I don't have to. If I do things only because I have to, where's the kesher? There's no real relationship in such an event. The real kesher comes when I do something because I want to do it. When I didn't have to, you go and you find something nice that your wife likes and you go and you buy it for her. That's the place where the kesher is. If you're doing it just because you're told to do it, it's not. It reminds me of the story. I mentioned it about 3-4 years ago. For those who remember, about the Rosh Hashiva, who told the Bachur who got in his first, after he got married, he was a fresh Chatan, 6 months later he got in a fight with his wife. He went to his Rosh Hashiva and he asked him, what should I do? So he says, go to the store and buy her some flowers and give it to her and tell her, I'm sorry. So he, so the Chatan went, like I said, a fresh Chatan, a little bit inexperienced. He went and he bought the flowers. He came to his house and he said, here, my Rosh Hashiva said, I should buy you these flowers. Psst, yafeh. Beautiful. We understand the difference when it comes from a place of inside, of internally. So then we know that there's a lot more. There's a lot more to it. If I have to do something, if everything is just 613 obligations, there's no relationship. There's no ava. Maybe it's yira. Maybe a little bit of fear. But I'm only focusing on the tachlit. I'm only focusing on the Gehenim, on the Gan Eden, on the Olam Haba, on the Tchiyat HaMeitim. If all I'm focused on is the booby prize at the end of the tunnel, I'm just looking to win the game in order to be able to gain the prize, then there's a little bit of a problem there. I'm only focusing on the tachlit. You're forgetting the mahut. You're forgetting the essence of the relationship. You're not building any type of kesher. The only real way to build the kesher is by doing something a little bit extra, by giving that extra push, by trying to do a little bit more than is usual. As the Stipler over there writes, a ger, someone who converts, or a Baal Tshuva, even though he was already obligated, but there's a lot more connected for a very simple reason, because they feel like they're doing extra. They're going over and beyond what they were told to do. They're doing more than they grew up with. That makes all the difference in the relationship. A Rav found a job for one of his congregants who was looking for a job for a while. And the person was working there for a few months. The Rav called the boss in order to check up. How's he doing? Is he managing? Is he doing okay? So the boss said, yeah, he's Beseder Gamor. He's all right. I'm okay with him. So he asked him, what's wrong? It sounds like you're not so satisfied. He told me, look, the job requires a 9 to 5 position, and he's here from 9, 00 to 5, 00. That's it. He does what he needs to do. He's here the whole time, the 8 hour, he does his job, and that's it. If he was here till 5:10, those extra 10 minutes, it wouldn't just be 10 minutes more of work. It would show those whole 8 hours had something of essence. It shows that he was really here the whole 8 hours. The fact that a person leaves exactly at 5 is, as we say, ketino kaborech mebeit sefer. It means he was never really interested in being there anyways. He was just there because he had to be there. There was no real emphasis on the work in the first place, and it takes away. Real ava comes when you take an extra few minutes, when you push a little bit more than you had to do. That's a chacham. That's someone who knows how to think, to be able to see a little bit more. And this is what Rav Chanan writes. Rav Chanan Vassman writes in his Kuntras Divrei Sofrim. He says, even before Matan Torah, there were certain things that Hashem told us. There's something called the Tzivui Hashem, the mitzvot, which we're obligated to do. There's things that He told the Navi, which we're supposed to do. And then there's the Ratzon Hashem, things that Hashem doesn't write, but there's the Ratzon Hashem. We know that that's what He wants. The Ratzon Hashem. And he says that was the problem with Bilam. Bilam Rasha, the biggest Rasha, one of the biggest Rashaim that we know, is known as Bilam Rasha. And the whole time in the Psukim, he always says, I can't be over it, Pi Hashem. You know what he says? Pi Hashem. Because he was always focused on what Hashem said, the mouth of Hashem, what he said. He never cared what he wanted. He knew that Hashem did not want to be Mekalel, to curse Bnei Yisrael. He knew there was no interest. And still, he went and did it. Why? He got around what Hashem said. Hashem didn't say no? Okay, I'll go. He didn't ever care about the Ratzon. And here we have it, like I said, the Spitz Rasha. And what did he do wrong? He was only focused on what Hashem said. He never really cared about what Hashem wanted. Person has to pay attention. Chas v'shalom, we should never be on the level of Bilam. But I'll go upon him this idea, if am I too busy focusing on Pi Hashem, on just what Hashem says, and just focusing XX to know exactly what I have to do, and I don't have to do more, there's no more minyanim, yay, no more minyanim, I can get around it. Or is it something that it hurts, it's painful, I wish I could do it. Of course we should be trying to do our best to be able to do more. It should be a painful experience that we can't. If you can do one from your Pesach to Pesach, from one balcony to another, you're allowed to. If one's allowed to see one to the other, is a person interested in trying to make some type of connection because he cares about what Hashem wants, or is his focus a little bit more on what Hashem says I have to be doing? Am I only focused on the tachlit, on the olam haba, or on the mahut? Before I make a business transaction, am I going to decide whether I should go through with it or not? It requires a little bit of cheating, maybe a little bit of stealing. You have to make this decision. Am I doing what's necessary? Am I doing what Hashem wants? Or am I getting around it? It's not exactly stealing. It's a problem. It's a berich. It's not exactly. There's two different types of echsherim. And before I make that decision, look, it has the echsher on it. It already says on it something that it's kosher. So why can't I get it? What difference does it make if it's bigger or no? Kosher is kosher. That's a person who's just making sure I don't get Gehanim. Just make sure I stay out of Gehanim. Before you speak about Lashon Hara about a certain person, again, as a person rethinking, take a double take to think, is this really what Hashem wants from me? A person would spend a lot of money to be able to get with a gadol ador, just to be able to spend time with him a little bit, to ask him a couple of questions, or a navi. A prophet, how much you would spend just to be able to spend time with a navi, to be able to ask him, is this something I should do? Should I be spending more time with my kid? Should I be spending more time with my seder? How much time should I be spending at home with my wife or helping, as opposed to going in and learning, etc.? A person would want to know these answers, right? Here you have a Kodesh Baruch Hu is here. You have to spend yichud. Now you have a lot of time to spend with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and find out what's the real answer. What's something that I need to do, and especially if we're going through our most serious issue, of course, with the shuls, that there are no shuls around, which I mentioned before, is unfortunate that we have to miss, but now's the time to realize, how is my davening? I'm not talking about kavanah in the words. I know we all have our difficulties with kavanah. But is it external? Is it there? Am I walking into the shul and talking in the shul? Am I showing the proper sanctity for the kedusha that the shul deserves? As we all know, Rav Lipkin, the Tosaf Yom Tov, right after Tachvatat 400 years ago, which was a massive crusade, a couple 100,000 Jews were gruesomely killed. It wasn't just gas chambers; they were killed in very gruesome ways. And he had the gall to be able to stand up in the shul and say it has to do with people talking in the shul. People talking in the shul caused such a pogrom, such an event to happen, and that's what he said. We can't say these things, but here Hashem threw us out of the shuls. Maybe it has to do, or more specifically, when it comes to shul, I want to mention one other point. When it comes to the idea of shul, is that we know when a person goes to a wedding, there's different types of people. There's some people that come for the last dance. There's some people that come for the meal. There's some people that come for the chuppah. There's some people that come for the hors d'oeuvres in the beginning, maybe because they want more food. And there's some people that come all the way in the beginning for the pictures. All the way from 2 in the afternoon, they're already there for the pictures. What's the difference between all these people? The ones who are there from the beginning, we all know that's direct family. Those are krov mishpacha. Those are people that exactly know the Chatam and Kala extremely intimately well. The people that come a little bit later, those are more distant relatives. The ones that come a little bit later, those are friends, close friends. The ones that come at the end are the distant friends. It all depends on how close you are. That's pshat and shul also, you should know. The people that are there to put in their tefillin around Shemona Esrei time, or to make it for Kriyat Shema, those are the people that come at the end of the wedding. I guess they don't have much of a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, not much of a kesher. I'm here to be Yotzei Zayin, as they say, just to finish up. The people that come a little bit earlier, they seem to have a little bit more of a closer. The ones that come and the beginning, an incredible close relationship to Hashem. And the most good are the ones that come for the pictures. They come 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, maybe even make a seder to make sure they're not late, to make sure they're meticulous not to be late. Those are the people that have a direct relationship with their Creator, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Those are the ones that are the most intimately close. What we're talking about is a kinyan pnimi, a relationship, an intricate relationship, an emotional relationship with Hashem. Not just here to throw a bracha, not just here to throw a tefillah. Mea brachot, rabotai. The magefa, the plague was stopped only with 100 brachot, with the tefillah, with building our relationship with Hashem. That's why in the Haggadah, the opposite of Rasha is a tzaddik, and it says chacham. Everybody asks this question: why does it say chacham? Why doesn't it say tzaddik? It had a Rasha, and then you say tzaddik. Why don't you say chacham? So the answer is to be able to know how to know what Hashem wants, not what Hashem says. What Hashem wants, you have to be a chacham. You have to think a little bit. You have to pay attention to what Hashem is sending the messages, what He wants from us. Why is He doing this to us? There's a reason for everything. And Hashem is doing it not stam. He's doing it in order for us to learn from our mistakes, in order to be able to improve in the places where we're not necessarily doing what we're supposed to be doing. That's this idea of Pesach. Pesach is a time of a leidah, of a birth. Like we mentioned before in Shir Shirim, it's a time when we were born, we were made into a nation. Hashem is a tremendous intricate relationship. When a child is born, we try to make sure the room is clean, it's hermetically sealed, it's sterile. We try to make sure there's nothing, no type of infection in the area. When a person goes through a surgery, we're incredibly meticulous. We have a lot of chumras on Pesach. We keep all these chumras because we want it to be hermetically sealed. We want to make sure there's no infections. Usually he'll say, don't exaggerate, but I think all of us know these days that we're making sure we're hermetically sealed. We're staying away from everyone, staying away. We stay in our houses, don't walk out. We don't go anywhere like we're supposed to do. And these chumras which we're keeping now, which we have to keep every little bit of it, we have to make sure to keep to everything the health ministry is telling us, obviously. But just like they're telling us to keep all these things, we have to make sure to keep these types of chumras also even afterwards. I'm not saying to be machmir, and I'm not talking about the extra chumras and try to take on a chumrah. That's not the idea that I'm getting at. I'm trying to work on a relationship. Am I here really just for olam haba, or am I here a little bit more to build a kesher with Hashem? Am I trying to build my relationship with Hashem, to build that love, that ahava, not just ki'ilu, not just as if. I want it to be there as if it's there. Hashem took us away from the outside world. He took us away from all the tirdot, all the business of the outside world. No more money, no more relationships, no more kesher with people, nothing, just to us and ourselves. And it's time for us to rethink what we're going through. And with this I finish. Ein prun yidba liYisrael, el bishvil Yisrael. We should know the whole world only receives what they receive because of Yisrael, because of Bnei Yisrael. We are the reason for everything. Yes, everything that occurs in this world is only because of us. And that's why, yes, unfortunately, it's l'davonenu, but it's happening to many Jews also, religious and not religious alike, that are going through these difficult times. And it comes from a place to know that you should know it obviously has something to do with us, something that we have to improve. Everybody knows what that nukuda that they have to improve on. I'm speaking about the idea of building a relationship. If it means an extra chumrah in your case, that's a good thing also. But try to do something a little bit extra to build a relationship, that kesher with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's all that Pesach is about. Shir Shirim, the yitchadshut, the newness of the world. The whole idea of Pesach is the idea of the leidah, the birth, and trying to be a little bit more meticulous and careful to make sure everything is hermetically sealed. And with this I finish. Mamish, the last point, 3 minutes, and with this we finish. Just an important point, and there's an incredible point here. That's why I'm not skipping it out, but it's very relevant for our day and age. The Gemara in Baba Batra, listen to a Gemara which makes absolutely no sense, and the Gemara in Ayin Gimel brings Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana, famous Agadita. There are many Agaditas over there, and one of them is this story, that one time he says, I was going in my boat, and I got to an island, which was really, really a very big fish. But he was just floating on top of the water for so long that there was already chol, there was already sand on top of him, and asavim and weeds that were growing out of the chol. So I said, I thought it was an island. So I went on it and I started barbecuing. In order to check. He said, ala esh. Okay, he came from here. Ulechen bishalti ve'afiti al gabav ad shenes alocha meod. It became so hot for him, and it was too much for him. So the fish turned over. And he said, "Ve'im lo hayiti karov lesfina," if I wouldn't have been close to my boat, hayiti nidba, I would have drowned. I would have been lost forever. I would have got drowned in the ocean. Baruch Hashem, my boat was next to me. Obviously, a cryptic, abstract Gemara, which is hard to understand, but the Mefarshim say straightforward. The things that we think are kviya v'kaima, the things that we think are firm, yetziv, they will be here forever, they never change, and everything is perfect. Those are the things that when things get hot, it gets turned over. It doesn't last forever. The things that seem like they're here forever, this world, or if I could say more specifically, in our world and day and age, when people are so into technology, which is fantastic, technology is incredible. We have rovers going in Mars, traveling in Mars, how far we've gotten. We have people who can walk on the moon. We have satellites floating around the world, being able to see every person that walks around in this planet. Incredible things. We're able to see DNA, chromosomes, and play around with them and change it around from different things. We're able to move with incredible excellence and magnificent capabilities that man has done in this past century. The incredible form, the whole big world is a little island. It's a little island, this little island which he's talking about. Everybody's in touch. You can be in touch with anybody you want within seconds, literally within seconds, something that was unheard of not very long ago. This little island which seems that we're in control, we're the ones who know everything, so nothing can affect us. We're in control of everything. And comes along a Kadosh Baruch Hu and says, you better hold on to that sfina. I know that boat's little, it looks a little bit rickety and it looks temporary and it doesn't look like it's going to be there forever, but you should know that's your only point of salvation. That's the only place where you're gonna be able to see a morrow. All these things that look so firm and look like we're in control, really our connection is only with that boat. The Yisurim, the difficulties we go through, and the mitzvot, the mitzvot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us, that's the place where we will have a point of survival. Only there will we be able to have a true, eternal type of connection. We'll be able to be there forever. And sometimes, unfortunately, Hashem has to send us little messages to remind us, because we tend to forget. Hashem doesn't send us pain, stam. That we think sometimes we need to daven in order to remove the pain. That's not true. The pain is here in order to remind us to daven. The purpose is the davening. The davening is not a means, it's an end. It's there, it's always an end. If we would be davening, and davening means what we spoke about today, relating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, realizing that Hashem is there, building that relationship, a kesher with Hashem, then Hashem wouldn't have to do these types of unfortunate things that come about to us. Listen to the words of Rav Chanan. Incredible words of Rav Chanan, and it's very particular for us. He says it's called Chevlei Leida. When during the time before, as we all know, before Mashiach comes, it's called Chevlei Leida, the birth pains. Why he says it's called birth pains? Because just by Leida is a beautiful thing. It's a simcha gdola. Just before is not so comfortable, at least for the wife. It's not exactly the most comfortable thing that's there. But the point that I like that he pointed out in Kovetz Ma'amarim, he says one important thing. He says in the beginning the pain is little, and it gets worse and worse and worse. When it gets at the climax, the worse, there's the point of the simcha. That's the point of the simcha. Over there, you get a mazel tov. When it gets worse, when you're by number 10, over there, when it's so difficult, over there is when the mazel tov comes about. That's exactly what we're talking about now. And he says it's the same thing in Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim was perach. It started as a little bit easy, and then it started getting harder and harder, until tichberav, it got harder, until tevenei niten ve'levanim oimim. They didn't even give us the teven. We had to do it ourselves. It get worse and worse and worse, and then the geula came. That's exactly what's happening with us. Lo aleinu, Kadosh Baruch Hu should say l'tzaratenu dai. You should give us a respite from what we're going through. But over here, where it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse, over here we see that must be the point of where the Leida is about to occur, where the birth is about to come about. It's only specifically from here. Yati v'lo yichmenu, we don't want to see it, we don't want to be during that time of difficulty, but the worse that it's getting every day, 1, 2, 5, 10, 100,000, 2,000, 3,000, lo aleinu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should put a stop to it. But al kapanim we see that apparently it comes from a place of a love from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And with this we end. An important point, and it's not stam, but the Mishnah says in Pesachim and Daf Nun Vav, it brings from Chizkiah that he hid the Sefer of Refuot. Chizkiah hid it. There was a book that said the Refuah for Corona. It said the Refuah for there was the medicine for the medicine for every single sickness that we have, including cancer, including the sickness that we're being surrounded by. It was there. And Chizkiah went and he hid the Sefer. You would have thought, the Gemara says there are a few things that the rabbis were not happy with him, and this one they were happy with. They said, Hiskimu Yodam. Why would they be happy? The Rambam's not so happy with it. He tries to change Pshat. Says Rashi says, they were relying on this medical book. They didn't dive into Hashem anymore. And therefore it was worth it to cause, listen to this, because they were not relying on Hashem. They relied on the book, on the refuahs. They weren't relying on Hashem. It was worth it that people should die in order that people realize where the address is, where we have to be looking. A Mefursha Mishnah, which maybe unfortunately l'davonenu is relevant a little bit for our day and age, to realize that we're not here for the tachlit. We're not only here to try to make sure I don't get out of Gehenna. We're here to build a relationship, the tefillah. And I'm not just talking about learning how to daven. I'm talking about learning to make a kesher when I do a mitzvah, to believe that Ani Hashem Rofecha, Hashem is the only address, and it doesn't make a difference when they come up with it, with this vaccination. That's not the focus. The focus on the real trufa, the real etzala that we're going to have, is a little bit of a change in us. Bishvil Yisrael ba pruni leolam. It's only for us. You have to realize nobody else is going to stop this thing. It's only going to be us. And unfortunately, l'davonenu, I said, it's many Jews and religious Jews, and even more religious, that are getting hit by it. So maybe a Kadosh Baruch Hu Chas v'Shalom, I'm not here to give any reasons, or I'm far from a mandamer to say what or why. I'm just reading to you what a Mishnah says, to make us realize that we're focusing on the Ya'ad, and we have to try to focus on the relationship, to try to rebuild and ask for Kadosh Baruch Hu to save us. And Yomer L'Tzaratenu Dai, B'ezrat Hashem, we should have a Chag Kasher, v'refuah Shlema, B'ezrat Hashem.